My ex-boyfriend tries to spam me, he got a dose of payback. Warning, some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share some of the recent r/ProRevenge stories posted on Reddit. My ex-boyfriend tries to spam me, he got a dose of payback. Once upon a time there was a naive young maiden, me, who was yet to discover she was a lesbian. Before she came to realize she was in fact a lover of the ladies, she had some pretty nasty breakups with men that more or less sealed the deal for her preference for tacos over hot dogs. So back when I thought I was straight, or to be more accurate, desperate to prove to my friends that I had a boyfriend who we'll call JJ. He was a total jerk who made fun of me, lied to me, nitpicked my insecurities, and basically made it his goal in life to shame me for having a boyfriend who was so utterly out of my league like him. But it wasn't that much different than what I was used to from my dad, and I was desperate to convince myself I liked men, so I sucked it up for a while. But everybody had their own boiling point, and mine was watching him unabashedly flirting with other women in front of me. So I finally got the courage to dump him. In a perfect world, he'd have accepted the breakup gracefully, taken a closer look at himself to find out what prompted the demise of such an otherwise perfect relationship on his part, owned up to his shortcomings, and moved on with his life. But sadly this is a world where Trump is president and COVID-19 is thriving, and JJ's attitude towards me in the coming weeks was a perfect reflection of the absolute cesspool we live in. The guy just refused to accept the reality that I dumped him and not the other way around, and got it into his bleached blonde frosted tipped head that he would make me come to terms with the fact that dumping him was the biggest mistake of my life, or die trying. Unfortunately for me, he decided not to go with the latter. What followed was several days of him spamming all my social media accounts with posts he'd tagged me in. From passive-aggressive think pieces about how he hoped someday I'd forgive myself for letting a catch like him go to Instagram videos of him living his best single life without me. I tried to block him, but he'd either make new accounts or get his friends to tag me in their vids of him making a fool out of himself at their parties. But the true putrid icing on this feces-riddled metaphorical mess of a cake was when he began to text me videos of himself going at it with other women while telling them to smile for my ex and reminding me how I threw away the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be in his latest shaft sheath of the week's position #this could been you. I was irritated and annoyed and just wanted him to leave me alone already. But where I just wanted to block his number, before he could send me anything else, my friend, we'll call her Grace because she was my saving one, has a better idea with far more amusing results. You see, Grace works for a company that I had mentioned to her in passing that JJ was applying to. She was reminded of this when she saw him at the building she works at for an interview some time before. She goes to his Insta and one look at his account tells us that he's so blessed and thankful that he got the job and he can't wait to come into work Monday. Much like herpes, JJ was never one to keep good news to himself. So Monday rolls in and Grace comes to work dressed to the absolute nines. She's wearing pumps, a full face of makeup, received a blowout, stuffed her bra, the whole shebang, which was coincidentally the best way to describe what was going on in my closeted gay panties when she sent me a picture of herself to let me know her plan was in motion. Knowing that JJ was fresh on the rebound, she knew he wouldn't be able to resist her. Upon entering the workroom, her boss introduces him to the rest of the team and sure enough, the first thing he notices is Grace in all her glory. Later in the day, he practically drags himself over to her, hips first, and starts putting the moves on her. Grace puts on a show of falling for his cheesy pickup lines, which to be fair, I genuinely did at the time, but in my defense I probably would have thrown myself at him in my desperation to beard myself, had he simply winked and made a kissy face, and agrees to give him her number. She punches it in with the intention of blocking him later. I had warned him in advance that JJ is the kind of guy who's been politely declined enough times to call a girl in front of him to make sure she didn't give him phony digits. 5th grade math teacher got fired. Okay, so this all started when I entered middle school and started 5th grade. This is important because me and my classmates were still in that stage where you think all grown-ups are right. Now I won't tell you her real name, so we will call the teacher Miss D. Miss D was our math teacher for the year and this was her first year at the school. It was very obvious she wasn't a huge fan of kids and wished she could do anything else for a job. There were many little incidents throughout the year that made us dislike her more and more. Like one time when I went to the bathroom. Now in our school we had to fill out a sheet before going to the bathroom that consisted of your name, the date, the time you left for the bathroom, and the time you got back. Now I filled out everything but the date because I had no idea what it was, and when I asked Miss D what the date is she didn't tell me. When I got back from the bathroom I went back to my seat and forgot about it. At the end of class she called me up in front of everyone and started yelling about how you didn't put the date on the bathroom sheet. I can't believe this. If you dare not to put the date down again, I will never let you go to the bathroom in my class ever again. And this was after I asked her for the date. Believe it or not, I felt terrible for not putting the date down and thought it was my fault. The other kids in my class told their parents, who told my mom. She was not happy at all but decided to let it go for now and just reminded me it was not my fault. At another point in the year we were taking a test in her class and a marker in another kid's desk rolled out and onto the floor. He went over to get it, but before he could pick it up the screaming started again. How dare you get up in the middle of a test? You are disrupting the whole class. As she screams, drawing 10 times more attention than the kid ever had, if you dare get up again, I will fail your test. I mean really. I'm not even sure it was the kid's marker. This lady hated the fact we existed and actually really destroyed my self-esteem. I had thoughts of killing myself at points. I was 10. I had to get a math tutor to make it through the year and almost failed her class. She was okay at times, but she would always overreact to the dumbest things like kids interacting in class or something like that. Now here is where the revenge comes in. Now my mom heard of all of this, and since we were 10 and thought she was right to punish us from these things, we didn't know that this was a big no-no. My mom set up a private meeting with the principal where we talked about her behavior and tested me on how well she had taught me. I'm pretty sure other kids also had chats with the principal, so I probably wasn't the only one to bring her downfall. One day we walked into our homeroom at the end of the day and there were papers on each of our desks with one kid reading a note mouth wide open. This is what the note read from what I remember. Dear student, your teacher, Miss D, will be taking a leave of absence and won't be coming back ever again. She will be replaced with, NT, nice teacher. We hope that you are not disappointed with this news and we hope you have a wonderful day. Now I know that the letter said she would be on a leave of absence and never coming back, but we all know that that was just code for we fired her. We also got proof later when my mom checked her Facebook and saw an angry letter about how she was fired unfairly for being too good. What? Lol. There is also a slightly annoying part about this story. Basically, since we were 5th graders and we're immature, we kind of celebrated a little by screaming in joy and overall being happy when we found out. I kind of regret this because it was a little harsh, but hey, it's not like she's gonna find out or anything wrong. So for some sick reason the other teachers saw us celebrating and decided to tell her. So obviously she wasn't happy when she found out and wrote petty notes to all the teachers about how she felt disrespected and sad that anyone would treat her that way. The other teachers then lectured us in the cafeteria for being rude and mean to her, and now that I'm not 10, I can't stop thinking you guys told her. Like, come on, they didn't have to tell her we were happy she was gone. I know that we probably should not have gotten excited when we found out she was leaving, but the other teachers didn't have to go and tell her afterwards. Tell me if I'm right here, I don't really know, but anyways, that is the story of how my 5th grade class got our mean math teacher fired. Sorry this was kind of a rant and really long, but you don't do this to 5th graders who don't understand that some adults can be wrong sometimes. Steal my medication? You'll regret it. So when I was 15 I was diagnosed with bipolar schizophrenia. Now despite what TV shows and movie portray it, not all schizophrenia are and serial killers. If you can keep your medication in balance you can live a perfect normal life. From the age of 15 to 20 was rather hard as we tried to find the right balance and medication for me. But it's been 11 years since I was first diagnosed and has been 6 years since I have any really bad symptoms. There has been a few minor issues when my meds would go out of balance. But nothing too extreme. Anyway, this happened 3 years ago. I had just moved into a new apartment with 2 new roommates. We will call them Zach and Rachel. Yes, those are their real name, cause fuck them. Anyways, due to my illness I take multiple medication. An antipsychotic, antidepressants and an anti-anxiety medication to name a few. This are all rather strong medication. So when I moved in and got settled and I started notice some of my meds start going missing, I have my pills counted out and ready. So I know exactly how many I have. I immediately suspect my roommates as they were the only one with access to my room. I also knew for a fact they took other medications to get high. They were pretty open about it. But I had no proof. And didn't want to risk pissing them off as I had to live with them. So I looked past it hoping it was a one-time thing. But it wasn't. After a few days of this I lost it and confronted them. They denied it and of course I had no proof. I even got a lock for my room. But somehow they still managed to get in. So here where the revenge starts. So due to all my medication I get constipated a lot. So I have a very stronger laxative I take when this happens. They are tiny pinkish pills. If you don't know about medication you could easily mistake these for something else. One morning before heading to work I took my antipsychotic pill bottles and switched out the pills for my laxatives. And then I left. When I came home that evening, both my roommates were in the washrooms. I asked Rachel what was wrong. She made up some bullshit food poisoning excuse. They spent the whole night in and out of the bathrooms. My medication stop disappears after that night. Mom took the car, I took $80,000 and made her pay even more. I got a lawyer and took my stepmom to court after my biological dad's death. I lived with my stepmom for about a year after my dad passed. She was abusive to me and often tried to embarrass me when we went out, often grabbing at me and making not the best remarks about my body and stuff. It made me uncomfortable, and it went on for about a year until things actually started getting dangerous. So that woman starts to abuse me. Like hitting me, yelling at me. It gets dangerous for me, and I choose to leave. I move in with my aunt. A couple months afterwards, I tell my aunt that the car was originally supposed to be mine, and that my dad had a will. My aunt, not knowing that, encouraged me to get a lawyer to try and reclaim things. So we see the lawyer, and begin to work against my stepmom. I wanted to see what other property I could reclaim, seeing that I didn't even have access to my student funds. She tries so damn hard to stall for time, eventually dragging the case to be a year. This is mainly because she owns a small business, and often evaded reporting her income. That sort of thing. Legit, all I wanted were my college savings and whatever else my dad could have chucked in for me. She's dragging that case out until sometime in the fall, where we finally get a hearing. Basically someone transcribes the back and forth, and sends it over to a judge. Simple stuff. Her lawyer thinks that I'm trying to charge them for abuse, while my lawyer is trying to get some footing to provide child support / prove a connection between her and my dad, which, thinking back on it, is a bit odd because they would have been common law with how long we all lived together. Anyways, my stepmom picks up on this shortly afterwards and starts to profusely deny she had any sort of relationship with my dad, which pissed me off. My lawyer asks my stepmom to provide my dad's will, to which she claims she burned it. Then later on, in the same conversation, pulls up what I assume to be a fake will, because the signature sure as hell wasn't my dad's. I'm sitting in the room, trying not to fume while my lawyer digs deep into the woman about what I was legally entitled to as the daughter of my dad. What I should be given access to since she no longer had custody of me anymore. It was passed over to my grandma, shortly after she kicked me out. She still refuses to settle, and the thing is sent over to the judge. At the very least, something amusing did come out of it. She ended up panicking when asked about what the 2 letters of her salon meant, and she decided to go toes and foot when asked. The actual letters are T and P, meant to stand for both family surnames, and thought that because PH and F made the same sound, she could just say that. The woman transcribing the conversation even looked at her screen in confusion. Lol. The last time I saw her was in court, where she and her lawyer were trying so hard to fight for me to just drop the case. It ended with the judge advising my stepmom to go with a settlement, because she was going to lose the case. I already knew that she was losing a lot of money, having to pay for legal fees because she's the one who dragged it on for so long. Then she decided to just meet my demands as a settlement. That was funny, because it didn't fly, and it ended with my brother and I getting 50-50. It's a life insurance from my dad, that I never knew of. It also ended with me being compensated for the survivor's pension she's been taking from my bank account the year he passed, and getting about $30,000 in college savings. Oh, Right, and her having to partially pay my legal fee lol. The total I had to pay to the lawyer was about 35k, and she ended up having to cover for about 20k while I had to fill in the remaining 15k. Still, I think that was a win for me in the end. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.